Enter the stick, the next part of the two-part program, and this is the step to penalize flipping the car. What is up, YouTube? Welcome to Fred's Full Throttle. Well, it's been a really busy week since our last video. There I was, on the coast of Maine, enjoying some time off, and I got a ping, and then several pings, and then quite a deluge of emails, comments, and DMs letting me know about GM's latest salvo against the flippers. So in light of that, for today's video, I'm going to do a quick recap of the 3 increasingly impactful messages sent out by Steve Carlisle at GM, and then I'm going to dive in on the last 2. I'll also share my thoughts on what this may mean for getting your car, and is there anything we can do about it. I want to take a quick second also and thank Keith Cornett over at Corvette Blogger for most of the information I'm going to share in this video. He posts things there very often, and I find it really easy to search in the past for news like this, and I frequently use his site for reference in my video. Definitely go check out his website if you haven't already. Alright, let's go back to January for a second. Well, minus the cold weather, I much prefer summer. But let's remember Steve Carlisle's letter to dealerships regarding dealers that were engaging in bad sales practices, selling to overseas exporters, or demanding sums far in excess of MSRP with additional dealer markup. I covered that letter in a video, which I'll put a link in the description, but my read on the letter was that they were mostly trying to dissuade dealers from selling to known exporters, as well as anyone using bait and switch tactics to lure someone in for MSRP, but then demand a markup or unnecessary options. Many felt that the letter didn't really have the teeth needed to really fix anything, and some even reached out to dealerships with those high markups and asked what were they going to do as a result of the letter, and the answer was a resounding nothing. Well, Chevy wasn't done with this type of thing and decided on a carrot and stick approach. Fast forward to 2 weeks ago, and with the release of the Z06 pricing, there was a little tidbit that not everybody noticed that came along with the announcement. Near the bottom of the official information was a banner that said, "Reward yourself," and a link that went on to state that Z06 buyers could earn a $5,000 bonus just for holding on to their new Z06 for a full calendar year from purchase. Now there are a few catches, of course. First is that it's only available for a limited time. The ad didn't say if this is only for 2023 model year cars, but it clearly does state that it is a limited time offer. And second, and perhaps more obviously, the $5,000 comes in the form of 500,000 points in the My Chevrolet Rewards program and can be redeemed on anything that those points already are able to be credited towards. So it's not nothing, and it's a step in the right direction, but there's a big flaw here. As many online have pointed out, the glaring problem with this is that most flippers stand to make significantly more money from flipping their Z06 than the $5,000 in store credit, so to speak. A lot of people think that there's at least $50,000 in room to mark up the car and still get a sale, so losing out on $5,000 in GM bucks isn't likely to change too many minds. The next problem I see here is that the flippers are likely only interested in this car and may not have any future plans to buy a car or products from GM, so that $5,000 may not even register to them because they were never really planning to own it to begin with. And the last question I have, and Keith thought of it as well, is where is the money for this program coming from? Since it functions as store credit for most things GM, I'm pretty sure they can play around with the numbers on parts and accessories, service, and maybe not have to pony up that $5K. But the implication here is, did they find a way to completely absorb the price of that bonus for the buyer, or could the car have cost a little bit less? GM is unlikely to answer that one, but I don't think it's an unreasonable question. Anyway, the program I mentioned, this is the carrot. Enter the stick, the next part of the 2-part program, and this is the step to penalize flipping the car. This past Friday, GM released another letter to dealerships outlining a different approach. This time, GM outlined a few headline vehicles such as the 2023 model year Cadillac Escalade V, the Corvette Z06, and the GMC Hummer EV. For each of these, they are implementing a plan where if the vehicle is sold within the first 12 months of ownership, it's going to void the limited warranty on the car. They also highlight that it will bar the flipper from being able to reserve or purchase certain high-demand GM vehicles in the future. Well, this is great, isn't it? Most enthusiasts surely hate flippers, and this has got to be a great way to stop them, right? Well, not so fast. On the face of it, it's not a bad idea. Most of us hate flippers, especially for hard-to-get enthusiast cars. Flippers are the worst, taking a limited order slot from someone who will drive and enjoy and love the car, and instead unscrupulously use people's enthusiasm against them to mark up the car significantly, hawking a car that they don't care about just to fuel their own greed. I'll give you an analogy, and let me know if this sounds familiar. Think of the last time a big band you liked was playing a concert somewhere near where you live. You knew in advance the tickets were going to go on sale on a certain day. Sure, they were going to be on the pricey side, but you think, I've always wanted to see them in concert. For my wife and I, that was Eric Clapton a couple years back. We were going to surprise both of our sets of parents and buy 6 tickets so we could all go. What an amazing show that would be to see. So the big day comes and the sales open up. And in less than 10 minutes, fully sold out. For our part, during that time, we couldn't even get the ticket sales website to load. It was overwhelmed. When it did finally load, we were greeted with a cheery, "Sorry, you missed out on this great show." But that's not the worst of it. We then did some more searching online to see if we could find maybe secondhand tickets somewhere. And boom, the flippers, and we're going to call them scalpers in this case, came right in. Sure enough, we could easily buy the 6 tickets we wanted. There were over 20 different sellers with huge sections of seats. Only problem, each ticket was 3 to 4 times the original MSRP. We'll call that face value here. So those $350 seats were now $1,000 or more each. No concert is worth $6,000 to me. I don't care if the seats are up on stage or I'm sitting in Eric Clapton's lap. Sound familiar to you? Think of sporting events, concerts, other large public events, and even other limited products. Whether you call them scalpers or flippers, they ruin the experience for the people who really wanted to be there. Would I have enjoyed that Clapton concert? I'm sure. However, I also would have been thinking in my head the whole time, is this worth $1,000 per seat? The damage would always be there. Back to the Z06. Just the other day, GM also released a customer acknowledgement form which requires all Z06 buyers to agree to 3 things. If you decide to sell or otherwise transfer ownership of the car within the first 12 months after delivery, you agree. 1. You will be unable to reserve future high-demand models. 2. The new vehicle limited warranty is going to be voided. And 3. You miss out on that $5,000 of Chevy Rewards store credit. They also go on to say you agree to tell the transferee or buyer of the car about the voided warranty. So if GM can prevent that, what's the problem? Well, there are a few things that come to mind for me. First, with flippers not being the most virtuous and principled people, I can't imagine that any of them would inform the buyer about the warranty being voided, as that could likely jeopardize the sale. Next, buyers not familiar with this could ultimately be the ones having to pay more than that initial markup from the flipper if they need some sort of a repair or have a failure and the warranty is void. This could potentially screw an unaware third party, the eventual buyer, though hopefully anyone spending that kind of money to buy a car will have done some sort of homework, but I'm sure that this is going to happen. And third, these penalties don't actually hurt the flippers. They weren't interested in GM cars as a whole, and they likely won't ever buy another GM product. They're just greedy scalpers of cars, and they couldn't care less about any of these penalties or the inability to reserve a future car. So if it doesn't hurt the flippers, then why do it? Interestingly, a similar stick approach isn't unheard of. Ford is famous for doing this with the new Ford GT, barring the buyers from selling the car for 2 years. Now, legal precedent is actually on the OEM side in this case, as a very public case with pro wrestler John Cena famously buying a 2017 Ford GT, and then very publicly he sold it a few months later. Ford sued John, and he settled with them out of court, and the penalty money that he paid to Ford was actually donated to charity. Ferrari, too, has also taken steps like this with some of its more exclusive cars, so it's not unheard of. So for the people wanting the supercar experience, this is part of it, ugly as that may be. So as I mentioned at the start of the video, more than a few people have reached out to me and asked, what do I think about all this? I think the program is made with good intent. However, I'm a little bit skeptical as to if it'll actually prevent anything. I also think it's more likely to harm the others besides the flipper rather than the flipper themselves. The key to the program hinges on the buyer needing to be aware of the program before they buy the car from the flipper. Otherwise, there's no teeth to this program. But my biggest unanswered question here is, so this policy tries to address the flippers, but it's ignoring the other side of the same coin. What about Chevy doing something about the dealers with these huge markups? To me, they're just as bad as flippers, if not even a little worse, because it's done with the appearance of Chevy being fine with those markups. I see the knife's edge that Chevy is walking here. Most states require, by law, third-party dealerships in order to sell cars. So Chevy needs the dealerships. However, they also want to combat the brand damage and poor image that dealers generate by adding additional dealer markup to vehicles. They can only slap the hand that feeds them so hard, but they do still need them. Ultimately, unless the laws change or they only sell in states that don't require dealerships, they're caught somewhere in the middle. So the question is, what else can be done about this? Well, my internet friends, there actually is something that we can do. Several somethings actually. Some aren't that hard, but others are, and I'm sure I'm going to get some uproar over these. Now it involves 3 parts, and they're all pretty simple, though of varying difficulty, as you'll see in a moment. First, tell everyone and anyone who talks about maybe buying a Z06 from an individual about the rule and the policy about voiding the warranty. This will help spread the word. Post it in forums, remind your friends, post it on Facebook groups, etc. Some buyers won't care. It also won't totally fix the problem, but it will make flippers' jobs harder. Ultimately, a few of them may actually get stuck with a car that they don't want and that they can't sell easily for any profit. Number 2, don't buy from flippers even if you desperately want the car. No matter how much you want the car, if you care about the brand, the model, then don't buy into those that are hurting and abusing the system. You can get on a longer wait list from an MSRP dealership, or you can buy it later on from a non-marked up seller, but buying from flippers perpetuates the cycle. There will always be desirable cars out there, but if you want it bad enough, you can find a way to do that without hurting the process for enthusiasts. Easier said than done, but it is possible. And number 3, don't buy from dealerships who mark up their cars. Since GM can't do much about these greedy dealerships, we can. Don't buy from those dealerships who mark up their cars. Post the dealerships that are marking up their cars online, share pictures of the pricing sheets, and warn others away. I know my videos don't have nearly a large enough audience to affect real change, to find the eyes of every possible buyer, but each of you watching this can make a small difference. Only buy from a dealer that does MSRP. Sioka, McMulkin, and other big ones do. Yes, it means more waiting. Yes, I know that some of you already have low spots at dealers that have markups. I said it wouldn't be easy. Now let me be clear, I don't actually expect anyone who already has a reservation to actually make that change. That's likely too much to ask. But keep it in mind for the future. One of the ways to affect change is to be the change you want to see. I didn't mean for this to sound so much like a rallying cry to fight back, but you know what? I'm pretty happy with those 3 actions. And I hope at a minimum we can stick it to those flippers and make their lives just a little bit harder. Because every car they try to sell is one more car that an enthusiast, just like you or me, didn't get. Someone who just wanted to go out to their garage and get into their dream car. Now I'll close with an observation. The last couple of weeks there's been obviously a lot of chatter about flipping the Z06 online. A lot of people against it, a small number for it, calling it capitalism. Those who have seen openly admitting that they plan to flip their car, with some claiming to have several reservations across dealerships and that they want to flip all of those, I have seen one thing in common: arrogance, indignance, and amusement at others' dismay. They don't care about the car. All they care about is taking as much of other people's money away as they can. We may not be able to do much, but we can take a stand and do the little things to make their lives just a little bit more difficult. Now with that, my friends, I'm going to close today's video. I hope it was informative. I hope it made you think a little bit. And I hope that above all else you enjoyed it. So thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. And until next time, Fred out!